And welcome back to the U.S. Home Talk. We are live every Wednesday at noon and on demand at ushometalk.com or wherever you guys find your podcasts. We are your hosts, Marcus Walgrave with South Dakota Home Team, powered by Hague Realtors, Jason Walgrave with the Walgrave Real Estate Group at RE/MAX Advantage Plus, and Mike Overson with Luminate Home Loans. Also, our most professional producer, Evan Little, kicking it off for us, making sure we got a great intro. We'll be taking all of your questions during the show. Anything and everything real estate. The call-in number is 612-234-7585, or leave us a message in the comments section on Facebook. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Doing fantastic. First of all, let's just give a quick shout out to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Hey,
Timberwolves.
Man, it has been a fun season. They are a lot of fun to watch. So we'll see how the rest of the playoffs turn out.
So first game against Denver is Saturday. Is that right?
Yep, Saturday.
So we got a few days yet here.
So Denver did win. They beat the Packers, or the Packers, the Lakers.
The Lakers.
Yep. I think last night or maybe even Monday night. Yeah, they did. I think they won that series 3-1. But I'll tell you what, if we can beat Denver, we got a real shot at winning the whole thing, which would be pretty.
So are they gonna? Go ahead, Mike.
I think we got a winning record against Denver this year too, a regular season.
Do we?
Which now doesn't mean anything because the Suns beat us every single time during the regular season.
Good point.
And then we just got the broom out and swept them in 4 games. So
yeah, that was fun.
So they're gonna make this like a Marvel versus DC. You got the Ant-Man versus the Joker. Is that how they're gonna spin it?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be clever.
That's for sure what they're gonna do.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what. We're gonna have a great show here today, guys. We didn't quite finish our 19 strategies, the exclusive blueprint to win multiple offers last week. So we're gonna see if we can't knock out these 19 and avoid that part 3. But you never know. You know, I think last time a couple of them we went off a little bit. Educating our listeners on some earnest money details and etc. So, but let's just jump right into it, right? 19 strategies to win multiple offers. Last week, recap real quick. Letter from buyer with photo. Highest net offer possible. Increase earnest money. No inspections. Buyer paid home warranty. Cash versus conventional versus VA versus FHA type of financing. Kind of discussed, which is better. I don't know, before I get any further here, are we sticking to the football scoring system?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't change the scoring system in the middle. You don't
Just
go in at halftime and be like,
yeah.
touchdowns are worth, they're only worth like 4 points now. You can't.
So it's not like basketball where we can intertwine.
Basketball. All right.
Lender work order. Seller pays $0. Pre-approval letter and email from lender. Those were the ones we covered last week. Let's just kind of stay at the top of our list. Offer deadline in email, not in offer. Mm-hmm. So can we add a little more content to that one?
Expand on that. So there's sometimes sellers they'll put a property on the market. Let's say they put it on the market on Thursday afternoon, and the agent has in the agent remarks seller will review and respond to all offers, Sunday at noon or Monday morning at 10 a.m. Just because it says that doesn't mean the seller can't change their mind. And so if you write an offer that's good enough or appealing enough for the seller to accept and not wait, that's your goal, right? I mean, if you think you're going into a many multiple offer situation and you have the ability to write an offer so good that the seller says, you know what, I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to wait until the deadline that I had previously posted. So how do you get to that number? a really good buyer's agent, they've got to have a conversation with the listing agent. Let's find out all of the things that the seller is looking for. What's important to them? Closing date, price is going to be up there. Do they need an extended closing date? Do they need to close in a month, but they want to rent back for 2 months? These are, you have to do your research as a buyer's agent to find out what the seller wants and needs. And so, you gather all the information, put together your absolute best offer, you send it over, and you can put an offer deadline in there. Another strategy that you can use is you can send over an offer that has 2 prices on it. A price that if the offer accepts the offer tonight by midnight, we'll offer you this. Or if you want to wait until your offer deadline of Sunday or Monday, then our offer is this. So, and that could be a little bit less aggressive way to present potentially an offer good enough for them to not wait for the deadline, without, being, here's the offer. You got till, what time is this? Noon, 1:45 p.m. And that's it. We're pulling the offer, and so there's different ways to present it, to represent your buyer in the best interest, and, give the seller what they want, and give them enough of what they want to not wait until a deadline that they may have put out there.
Okay. Makes sense to me, for sure. Point system. So I don't know what you were going to say, Marcus, there, but we got to try to put a point system on this. What's this one worth? This is an extra point, 2-point conversion, field goal.
So, yeah, this one's probably a 2-point conversion, I think. If it's successful, if the strategy is successful, then it's worth a heck of a lot more, right? But, we're finding in most cases that when sellers put a deadline of, Sunday at noon, most of the time they're sticking to that. But it can be effective if you're digging enough and you're doing enough research on what the seller wants and is looking for. So I think it's probably worth 2 points.
Yeah, I think that's fair. In our market here in the Sioux Empire, just to keep sellers and buyers playing friendly, we're seeing more and more the seller adding that verbiage in terms of saying, hey, we are planning on seeing offers at Sunday morning. We're going to review them, and then we're going to let everybody know by noon on Sunday. However, seller reserves the right to accept an offer prior to that as too.
So the question, though, here is, our conversation was how to win in multiple offers. So let's say you're in multiple offer situation and you have an offer deadline in there. Does that really help you stick out against those other offers?
I think it definitely could, especially if your offer today is greater than what it will be on the deadline. I think that does give you an advantage if that offer is good enough and higher than any other offers that they currently have.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think so too, in terms of it's letting everybody know up front. Hey, we really like this property. We're willing to pay you top dollar, maybe plus some, but we don't want to sleep on it. We don't. We submitted this offer this morning. You guys got 15 hours to respond to it. If you guys want to wait and respond to everybody at Sunday at noon, totally understand. However, this offer expires at 10 p.m., but we still want to be in the game. So tomorrow, here's our next offer, and that one expires at the noon. So it's just kind of it's being aggressive, but it's not saying, well, if you don't, and wagging a finger at seller, because the seller's gonna be like, oh, whatever, I don't want to work with you anyways. So it's kind of getting the message through, but keeping everybody on peaceful terms.
Well, and think about it this way. Let me give you an example. Let's say you've got a property that's listed at $500,000, and it's a hot property. It's got all the right features and location and everything that many buyers are looking for, right? And so a seller says, yep, we're going on the market. We're expecting multiple offers. That's the goal, is to get multiple offers. So if you're a buyer and you see that, you see a deadline on Sunday and you're like, the property's live on Friday, and you're like, man, I want this property. I want this property. It's listed at 500,000. I'm going to give you 550,000. I'm going to give you 10% over asking price. I'm going to have no inspection. It's a cash offer. I'll buy it as is. Close whenever you want to, whether that's 2 weeks or 6 months. Completely up to you, seller. Here's my offer, but you know what? It's only good till midnight tonight. I mean, are you going to get a better offer than that? Probably not. Probably not. So so as a seller, you're looking, okay, I might probably get a bunch of offers over here by Sunday. Who knows what they're going to be, because I've given this long, 2-3 days, for everybody to put their stuff together. Or I got, arguably a perfect offer today for 10% more than I'm asking with 0 contingencies. I think I'm going to take it. Then I got to think about it on Saturday or Sunday, and it's done. So,
yep. This is really to keep you from going into a multiple offer situation. This is getting ahead of the multiple offer situation, so you don't get into that type of situation, really, is what this is for. Yeah. And that's the value. And if it works, again, the value is, right? The value is a touchdown and a 2 conversion, because you get the property that you want, right? Yes. So, yeah, so it's one of those things. If you're already in a multiple offer situation, is that really going to do anything for you? Probably not. But this is one of those strategies that you use so that you don't get into that multiple offer situation.
Mm-hmm. I think if you are in a multiple offer situation too, and you just simply want to, because maybe it's a buyer who's just there for the weekend. They're relocating. They have a new job offer, and they're like, hey, we want this one, but if we don't get it, we really want to get something under contract before we fly out at 5:00. So there's some of that situations where a buyer just might be in that position where they're like, hey, we just need a response sooner. And if you don't want to give us a response sooner, that's okay. We totally understand, but we also have our real estate goals that we're trying to achieve. So offer deadline in email, not on offer. Here's another one: reduce HOA docs period from 10 days to 3 days. Now, this is a Twin Cities thing. Our disclosure has, do you have HOAs? Yes. Provide the covenants restrictions if you have a copy. But that's kind of where it ends. The due diligence lies on the buyer and the buyer's agent to request those and to get copies of those. We don't necessarily have that in writing on our purchase contract.
So you guys don't have a time period to review and approve those HOA docs?
We had to add that verbiage in there. If you're representing a buyer and that property has an HOA in it, we need to add verbiage in it under like a provisions clause and saying, hey, seller reserves the right to see and review the HOAs, to maybe confirm the HOA financial standings, to see if they're in good standings, if there are any current or pending litigations against the HOA. That's a good buyer's realtor is going to add that verbiage, but no, it's not already on the state-approved purchase contract. So.
Interesting. So you got to write that in. I mean, that's a big deal. What happens if you're going into, because you want to buy a townhouse and it's like, I want to buy this townhouse, I want to live for 2 years, and I want to keep it as a rental. Like when I move out to my next single family, I want to keep it as a rental, but the HOA doesn't allow rentals.
Yep.
But you don't know that up front.
You're going to have an unhappy client giving you a call in about 2 years saying, whoa, I told you that this was my plan. What the heck,
Right.
So
interesting. And Marcus, is so when you guys handwrite that in, because it's not part of the template, purchase contract out there, how many days are you typically picking for that then? Because it sounds like you set your own amount of days then for it too.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think if the offer has maybe a property inspection deadline in there, we're going to try to get everything done within that timeline. Just so there isn't like, hey, there's, if the property inspection deadline is 7 days out, we're going to let the HOA items to be out there as well. I mean, obviously, it's if a seller drags their feet and they can't get the treasurer to confirm, how much reserves they have in the HOA account, then it's like, okay, well, that'll give a buyer an out if a seller can't perform, delivering those type of information.
Interesting.
the wild, wild west out here. In
Dude,
the,
is.
it is
in
the
the
Wild
West.
West in South Dakota, man. You
Don't
guys are
mess around.
guns a blazing.
Get
Screw
your
the
ducks in a
HOA
row.
docs. We don't need any of that stuff.
Screw 'em.
Hey, COVID comes through, ain't shutting. We're not shutting anything down.
Nope.
What's
Nope.
COVID?
Yeah, what's
So-
COVID?
Here's another good one, Mike. This is going to be one for you. Remove appraisal contingencies.
Yeah.
Can we even do that, Mike? Is that allowed?
Well, so lenders, so when you run a loan, right? So there's certain loan programs that might not require an appraisal to be done, right? So it's conventional loans only. If you have a strong enough buyer, meaning that if that buyer has enough money down and the automated system for either Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which are the two conventional loan basically providers, for lack of a better term, right? If one of their systems can collect enough data online to support the value that you have entered into that system for that property, it's going to say, we approve this loan and you don't need an appraisal, right? That's huge, right? Because
It is
now you don't have to worry about a value coming in underneath the purchase price. You don't have to worry about an appraiser seeing the property and calling out any repairs that might need to be done in order to meet the financing qualifications or the terms of the loan. So I think it's a pretty big one. I mean, this is probably just almost as big as waiving an inspection, I would imagine.
Especially if you're going over list price, right? I mean, obviously, if it's 20% under list price kind of a deal, then you know it doesn't really matter. But I mean, if Jason's example of a $500,000 listing and a buyer is saying, hey, you know, I'm going to give you $550,000, but I need a conventional loan. But don't worry, I'm going to waive the appraisal contingency. I mean, geez, that's huge.
or just guarantee the appraisal. You know, meaning, and there's an appraisal gap, saying the buyer comes in and says, I don't care what it appraises for, I'll bridge the gap. So if the appraisal comes in low, doesn't matter. Loan's based on the appraisal. I've got the funds to bridge any gap that there might be. You know, it's just an additional guarantee that the financing is going to come through, right? That regardless of the appraisal, we're covered. We're good.
Yeah. So one of two things: either A, see if you can remove the appraisal contingency, or B, you can also write in your offer that, you know, it's not contingent upon the appraisal value because we're going to offer full appraisal gap coverage,
Yep.
right? So if it's a $500,000 purchase price, and the appraisal comes in at $450,000, I have the additional $50,000 that I can bring to the table to bridge that gap. So then it doesn't matter what the appraisal comes in at.
Yep.
So
Now, go ahead, sorry, Mike.
I was going to say point system then. What's that worth?
That's a game-winning pick six.
Think so?
Or
That much?
a game-winning touchdown and you had to do the 2-point conversion. I mean, that's you know, it's big. I mean, if you can remove that, that's you know,
Yeah.
you're kind of playing in cash territory.
You know, so let's say this though. Let's say you're in a multiple offer situation, right? We know there's at least 10 offers on this property, right? You're going to submit an offer that has 100% appraisal gap coverage on there. How many of those other offers had the same thing on there, right? So how are you going to stick out? That's how I'm looking at this, is like our scenario is you're already in a multiple offer situation. How do you get
Yep.
your offer accepted, and
Yep.
what's the most valuable to that? So if you know there's 10 other offers on the table and you have 100% appraisal gap coverage, what's
Yep.
that worth?
It's probably worth 2,
2?
maybe 3.
Maybe a field goal?
Yeah.
I'd say at least a field goal, I think. You know what I mean?
I
Just
feel like
because
people are holding on to their cash more today than they have in the past. You know, I feel like it speaks more volume in today's market than maybe it did 2-3 years ago. You know, where it seemed like everybody's doing that. I personally, I mean, I'm not seeing that many that happening as often. So, you know, but if you guys are killing it up there,
Well, let's say on the flip side, Jason, right? So on the flip side, okay, I got a buyer who's going to make an offer $50,000 over list price. Again, it's our $500,000 list price. I got a buyer making an offer for $550,000, but there's no appraisal gap coverage. If the appraisal comes in lower, seller agrees to drop the price.
Oh, that offer is way less appealing.
Right? So then you almost have to look at it from the flip side to see really how much is that worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's almost
Yeah,
like
so
you have to have it I mean, if you're going to go that much above list price and you're financed, you got to have an appraisal gap, or I mean, you have to. Otherwise, the value of that offer is just much less.
Great. Right. Yeah. So it's kind of how you look at it, right? I mean, I'd say it's at least a field goal, but I suppose, it's, if you look at it the other way and say, look, if you do make an offer 50 grand over and you don't have this,
Yep.
you might as well not even write the offer then at that point, right? So then it'd be worth more. Then that would make it look like it's worth more. So I think that might be a little tricky one to put like an actual point value, but
can we give
I'm
it
gonna
4
say-
points? I mean,
I'm
does it
gonna
have
say-
to be football points? I mean, can we say 4?
we'll go back to basketball.
All right, here's the next one. We're gonna combine a couple. See if we can knock out this 19 strategies to win during a multiple offer situation. Possession time, extra days for the seller, and or offer a rent back if seller needs to find a home.
Okay,
So
so
just
this
in other
is
words, just giving seller some more time.
so if you go back 15 years, it was common practice to give sellers 24 hours to move out, which means we close today at 10 a.m. Buyer gives the money, seller gives the deed, title's transferred. Buyer doesn't take possession for 24 hours. I mean, it's like in today's world, that seems crazy to me because it's just, you're bringing all the money, you're buying the property, but you don't get to take possession of it for another 24 hours. 15 years ago, that was common practice. 99% of all deals had that in there. Today's world, it's immediate, right? So what if, but that's hard on sellers, especially if you're, I mean, I had a closing this morning. Sellers have got all their stuff in moving trucks and storage because they have to close on this one in order to move into the next one, right? And so I think that's really appealing to sellers. I think it's worth at least a couple points. If a seller's in a position where they're closing beforehand and it doesn't matter, well, then it doesn't have as much value. But most sellers are, that's not the case. They're closing one in order to buy another one. So if you can give them a couple extra days, a day or 2 days or 3 days, I think that goes a long way with reducing seller stress when it comes to moving. And if there is the ability to do a rent back, so let's say maybe there was a seller that wanted to buy or build a new home, but they couldn't do the construction loan until they access the cash or the equity from their house, which we can go off on a whole different area because Mike has solutions for that anyway. But let's just say that was the case. They're working with a crappy loan officer that didn't know what they're doing. But so they for them to sell and close now, but then rent back for a month or two, that might be worth more to them than an extra $10,000 in price. But that's why it's so important for buyers agents to have conversations with the listing agents and find out what's important to the seller. What are the seller's needs and can you fulfill them?
Yeah, I think this one is highly dependent upon the seller, right? Mm-hmm. What happens if the seller is an investment property owner and this house is vacant? Right? Well, given
That's
extra
zero
time
value.
and doing all this, it's zero value, right? That person couldn't care less. There's no one that needs to move out. There's no one that needs this. It's that. It's just vacant. It's just a vacant property, whatever, right? There's zero value. But if you have a seller that's got a family, right? You got parents and you got 3 kids and you got 2 dogs and you got the fish tank and you got all these moving parts. I mean, that's stressful trying to move all of that around, right? And so now it's definitely worth more. For one, it's probably zero. Right? For one seller situation. For the other seller, this might be a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think, again, you talked about that rent back if seller needs to find a home or waiting for the seller to finish something like a new construction. I mean, how many times that seller usually knows like what their dollar amount that they want to get. They're not necessarily looking at like, hey, I want to maximize net. It's like, no, we have a new goal. Our new goal is to move into our new home. So as long as we get X amount of dollars with our current home, our existing home, our exiting home, we're going to be very happy with that. However, we also need to have a home while this one's waiting to be finished or becomes available, whatever the case might be. And so, I mean, that's a great option. And that can also help, sellers maybe have that conversation like, well, I was going to wait until July to put my house on the market for XYZ reason. It's like, well, hey, if we can get you the dollar amount that you want today, let's just go ahead and get it under contract, and we'll work that rent back agreement to where it's virtually the same cost of living, and you can move forward with your other transaction, and we know that we're securing the home we want. So it's definitely like a win-win situation. Point system?
2.
2?
Yeah, 2-3. I like 2-3s. 2-3.
Well, 2
Safety,
threes would be
safety
6.
field goal somewhere in there.
I mean, like
Yeah.
2 3s or 2-3.
2s and 3s. 2s and 3s. 2.5. All right, here's one for Jason and myself. Always provide positive feedback on showings right away.
Okay, so so many agents fail in this area. So many buyers agents fail in this area. When we show properties, within the first hour of finishing that showing, we get a feedback request from the listing agent, and sellers almost all sellers read those, and some of them take those responses or that feedback very personally. And so it's so important as a professional real estate agent and a buyer's agent in this case, because guys, look, the seller is allowing you to come into their house. They're allowing you to come into their house and tour the property. And at the very least, when you're done as an agent, you need to provide positive feedback about the house, and because they're going to look at that. I mean, I've had sellers of mine. So my listings, my sellers, we got feedback, and it was crappy feedback or it was really negative feedback. I've had sellers call the buyer's agents directly and just kind of be like, what are you talking about? And so, if you're going to do that and the seller's not happy with you, how do you think they're going to look at your offer if you send in an offer in multiple offers? If they're pissed at you already about sending over, crappy feedback, you're not helping your buyer get their offer accepted.
If you think it was going to maybe warm them up to your low ball offer, that's not going to achieve the goal. That's not going to achieve the goal. You might want to think of a different approach. But I think I want to highlight something, Jason, with this strategy, and it's provide showing or positive feedback on showing right away. I mean, I think in defense, because you're right, a lot of buyers agents drop the ball on this one. And some of the time it's just a matter of like, you're got 12 homes you're showing that day, right? And it's the 6th one, and you're like, I got 6 more to show. I got to get to this house. I'm on the super tight schedule. However, you just got to keep in mind that maybe this one that you're like, oh, I'm not going to send feedback because my clients said that they really like number 5. Mm-hmm. Well, by the time you're done with the day, maybe 5's done, and a seller already accepted an offer from somebody else. It's like, well, shoot, man, we really wish we would have, gave some really good feedback on that 6th showing, and try to, let them know like, hey, we're really interested in that one too. And it doesn't hurt to throw a little thank you to the listing agent as well. Mm-hmm. And just letting them know like, hey, thank you for the opportunity to see that listing. And so be kind to be positive to the seller and their property, and be respectful. So
point wise,
probably,
how many points you get for this?
A solid 1 or 2. This is another one that depends on the seller, and some sellers it's going to be more important than others. So at least a point on this one.
Just because let's say this happens, right? Showings happen, right? Let's say it's a Friday and Saturday showings happen, and the seller is going to look at multiple offers on Sunday. Are they going to go back to your feedback from Friday? If you were one of the Friday showings, are they going to go back and look at your feedback when they see 10 offers in front of them, or are they just...
If it ticked them off, they don't have to go back. They'll remember.
Okay. So the whole key here is just this,
don't piss off the sellers.
Just don't mess it up, right?
Yeah, don't burn bridges. You're trying to do a transaction here.
Gotcha.
That kind
Okay.
of goes right in, segue right into the next one. Be kind, friendly, and professional with the listing agent, and ask what the seller wants. Jason, you've been saying this multiple times today and last week. Have the conversation. Like this isn't a me versus you type of situation. This is a transaction where buyer and seller are looking to move forward with the transaction of a piece of real estate. You as your buyer's agent need to be having conversations with the seller's agent and just simply saying, hey, I'm quite certain that my client really likes this property. If we do make a move on this here in the next couple hours when we're done with the other showings that we have, can you give us any heads up on what the seller wants? Do they really want a June 15th close date? Anything you can share would be very helpful for us to put together a really great offer for you guys.
Yeah, you need to communicate clearly, and you need to be available. I mean, I can't tell you how irritating it is on the listing side. If I get an offer sent over to me, I'm the listing agent, right? Get an offer sent over to me from a buyer. All they do is email it to me. They don't call me. They don't text me. They just email it to me. And then they're not available for like 10 hours, which is a little exaggeration. But even if they're not available for the next 2 hours, that's super frustrating. It kind of sets the tone that, man, this agent's going to be tough to work with. They're going to be hard to get a hold of. They're not going to respond in what I think to be a reasonable time. So you got to, look, you're submitting offers. You better be on your A game. You better be ready to go. And because it's now, it's your responsibility as an agent to do everything in your power to get that house for your buyer. And that means be available. And so, a lot of agents are not available.
And it sets the bar too, right, Jason? It's like, if they don't have the time to give you a quick follow-up call or a text message that they emailed you an offer, that bar's set. So it's like, okay, well, if you don't hear from me in 3-4 hours, you can't be calling me out and be like, bro, did you get that offer or not? It's like, didn't you know you sent me one?
Yeah.
You're busy, but you're assuming I'm not busy, and every email that I see, I instantly look at and read and respond to. It's like, everybody's busy. It doesn't hurt to give a quick phone call or a text message.
One of the things I do is if I've got a buyer interested in making an offer, first thing I do, the buyer says, yep, I want to make an offer. First thing I do, call the listing agent. Hopefully they answer. If they don't, hey, this is Jason Walgrave with RE/MAX. I got a question. Just showed your property, blah, blah, blah. I got a question. Would you mind giving me a quick call back? They call back. I am asking those questions. I'm doing the digging. What is the seller looking for? What's important to the seller? Doing all my due diligence for my buyer. I take that information, get on the phone with my buyer and say, okay, this is what I found out. Okay, great. Let's make the offer. So we draft the offer, package it up, put it all together. I think there's a part about how to present the offer later in this, but it's all
good segue.
All packed.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that one. I email it to the listing agent. I then call the listing agent. Hey, this is Jason. I just want to let you know that I just emailed you that offer. Would you confirm that you received it and let me know when the sellers will have a chance to respond? Also, I'm going to send them a text message. This is assuming they don't answer. Send a text message. Hey, just emailed you the offer. Also left your voicemail. Give me a shout when you can. So now I've done 3 things to make sure that listing agent knows that I am available. I've just sent them an offer. We'd love to get the communication lines open and get a response as soon as possible. Rather than send me an email. Maybe I'm in appointments all day.
That's what I mean. And then being mad at you,
yeah, you didn't
2-3 hours down the road.
You didn't respond to my offer. Did you call me? No, I emailed you. You and 300 other people emailed me today. So.
Every day.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna package three strategies together here, into one point system. We have offer package in one attachment, meaning that if you have an offer, there's more than one document that it makes up an offer. So make sure you have everything in one attachment or one link. Don't have it be multiple links. Hey, you got to find this document over here, and then you got to download this link here, and then you got to add my app to get this information, so make it super easy. So and not only just for the listing agent, but if we're using this multiple offer situation, sellers are going to appreciate that. I mean, if you send them an email and there's 15 attachments with, different type of documents, sellers are going to look at it and they're going to be like, blah, don't care. What's next?
Yeah.
And that kind of goes into, so offer a package in one attachment to cover the offer. Use an offer summary in the beginning of it so they know, especially if we have, this multiple offers where we're getting into double-digit offers. I mean, how nice and smooth that's going to be. And then include some information about the team, your team, and any partners that your team may have. So then don't rely on the listing agent to convey the message to the seller. Hey, I've been in the business for 10 years, for 20 years. I have one of the top teams in the region, in the state. Don't expect that the seller's agent is going to say that. Don't assume that they're going to do it. Just put it all in one very attractive offer attachment and ship it off.
So this is so important. It's so frustrating when we get offers on our listings and there's multiple attachments. And you kidded around about 15 attachments. Marcus, I think...
No, I wasn't really kidding him.
No, but I'm pretty sure that I got an offer once with 12 attachments.
Yeah.
Here's the pre-approval letter. Here's this, and here's the that, and here's the that. It's
you got to open them all, and it's super frustrating. So what we do is it's one PDF. It starts off with the summary page, which is a one-page form, and it's everything about the offer, price, details. It's one page that a seller or a listing agent can look at and know what the entire 30 pages of the offer is, but in one shot. So we have the offer summaries first. Second page is either the pre-approval letter from Mike Overson at Luminate or a proof of funds. And then following that is going to be the offer, so your purchase agreement and the addendums. And then in the last part of it are the disclosures that we pull off the MLS, the buyers need to sign. But it's all in one attachment. And then when I send those offers, I simply say, John, please see attached offer. When do you expect to get a response from the seller? We look forward to working with you. And then I CC Mike Overson on it as well. So, and Aubrey, our team's executive assistant. So it's going to the listing agent. Mike is CC'd. Aubrey CC'd. Everything's in one email. The listing agent, maybe the listing agent, they're busy, right? They got appointments all day and they're running all over the place. They can feel comfortable forwarding my attachment to their seller because it's clear and it's all right there. Everything that they need to know is in one attachment. You open it up so that the sellers can make a decision quicker.
Yeah, there's no interpretation that needs to this listing agent doesn't have to interpret your offer to their seller to be like, this is what that means and this is what that means. I mean, I always tell my loan officers, you want to try to answer the questions before they get asked to you, right? So when you're trying to explain something, try to answer that person's questions before they actually have to ask that question to you. So think about it that way, right? I'm going to try to answer your questions that I know you're going to have before you even ask them. And then here's the other thing too. I think this is a sneaky one where you get more points for it than what you think, because ease of transaction is one of those things where it's like a listing agent is going to receive this and be like, they're going to look at two different offers, right? You got your offer summary, right? Very clear on what the major terms of the offer are. You have your stuff, right? It's all in the order, right? And you get this other one, it's got all these attachments and this and that, and they got to print this and that off. It's like, who do you think's going to get to the closing table, right? Yep. The easiest with the less amount of stress. The one who's ultra organized and has this thing packaged up in a nice bow, or this one that just kind of flopped everything over and then never followed up on it to see if I even received their offer. I don't know about you, but I can pretty much tell you which one's going to be the better transaction to work with here.
Which one's going to win? I don't know.
So that's why I think this one is like a sneaky, like you might be like, yeah, well, doesn't everyone just like make it easy to follow? Doesn't everyone just put it as one attachment? They don't. And that's why I think like this is one of those things where like an outside person might give it 1 or 2 points. I think this is for sure a field goal. I think maybe even a little bit more, because the effect it has on the other side of these guys are put together, and any issues that come up during the transaction, these guys are going to be there ready to help out and get to a solution. I think that's worth quite a bit.
because a lot of
Yeah,
listing
three
agents
at least. 3 points at least.
3 points at least. A lot of listing agents will want to contact the loan officer before the seller makes a decision, right? Well, Mike goes out of his way to he contacts a listing agent before they even have to contact him. Hey, just want to let you know this buyer has been through underwriting. They're solid, good to go. They got assets, delivering additional confidence that the offer is solid, the buyer is solid, the financing is solid. Give sellers confidence that your offer is legit and it's going to close.
Coming soon offers. Got just 2 left here.
2 left. All right, coming soon offers. So in the Twin Cities market in Minnesota, if a property is in coming soon status, you cannot show the property. You can't go into the property.
Same.
Most
Same
agents
down here.
Same down there. So
Yep.
it is a way to kind of pre-market or pre-advertise the public. Hey, this is coming on the market on Friday. We're going to go coming soon on Monday to let everybody know about it. That's a whole show to talk about coming soon. So we're not even going to go deep into that one. But you can make an offer when it's in coming soon status. We have had clients over the last few years that have purchased properties that are sight unseen in coming soon status. Some of them have even done it without an inspection. So there is, it's so important, again, if you're a buyer, that you're hiring and aligning yourself with a top real estate agent, a top elite buyer's representative, because there are all these little additional things that if you want to have an advantage in a multiple offer situation, you got to know. You got to have experience, and you got to know what a seller's looking for and what is needed for a buyer to win in multiple offers, and that's what we do.
That's almost like avoiding the multiple offer kind of a situation too, right? I mean,
There's a
beating
couple on
everybody to
this
the punch.
list. It's like,
Yep.
yeah, like a couple of these, like this coming soon offer, making the offer during the coming soon period is hopefully to avoid the multiple offer situation, so you don't get into that. So if you can avoid it, then great. That's worth a lot. If you can avoid it, that's a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, to be honest with you.
Well, and we had a client a number of months ago. There was a property that coming soon. It was like $210,000, a flip opportunity or renovation opportunity. There is no question that property was going to get 15, 20 offers, right? And so we went in during the coming soon status. We offered, obviously above asking price. It wasn't that much above though. I mean, we were actually surprised that the deal got accepted, but made an above asking price offer, no inspection, buy it as is, because they had disclosures. So you had the full disclosure, so the roof is good and the foundation, all the major things. Buyer didn't care. He's going to completely gut the property anyway. He was doing new everything. So in this particular example, seller accepted the offer. In the coming soon time frame, never even hit the open market, and it was a huge win. It was a huge win for us and our buyer. So, but you got to know that you're able to do that. You got to know what your buyer's needs are to identify if a property will fit. If it's incoming soon, and in this case it did.
Last one of our exclusive blueprint to win multiple offers. 19 strategies. Number 19, look at property history.
I mean, the nice thing about today's real estate world is there's a lot of information. There's a lot of information available, and so do the research. When was the property on the market last month? Did it go pending? Was there an inspection and it came back on the market? Look at the history, gather as much information, because if the property was originally listed and it had all the furniture in there, and they were living there, but now it's currently listed and it's vacant, does that tell, seller motivations? Is there additional information that you can gather by looking at the property history? Spend some time. As an agent, you got to spend some time and do the research to best serve your buyer.
Yeah, it's those digital footprints that we have on the interwebs, right? But I mean, I think that kind of the example that you gave about, was it listed last year or was it listed over the summer? Maybe it was under contract and it fell through. It fell through after the contingent miscellaneous. I'm using status titles down here, but you can let them know, like, hey, why did you go up $20,000 or why'd you come down $20,000 from 3 months ago? Mm-hmm. I'd say at least two. At least two.
I would say two as well. And folks, this is an exclusive blueprint, 19 strategies to win in multiple offers that we put together based on a ton of experience in many years dealing with sellers and multiple offers and representing buyers and sellers. But this isn't all of them. This isn't all of them. And Mike, I was talking to you about a few other ones last week after the show, and we're just not going to give away all our secrets on the show. But the main point is if you are in the market to buy a home, and we've given this advice 100 or 1,000 times, you got to align yourself with a top real estate agent and top mortgage professional. And so, do your research, interview the folks that you're considering hiring, the agents that you're considering hiring that will represent you. Make sure they got the experience, make sure they got the track record. And it gives you the highest likelihood of winning in multiple offers if you're a buyer, selling your home for the highest amount in the quickest time if you're a seller, making either transaction as smooth and as little stress for the buyer or the seller as possible because of all the things that we do behind the scenes. I sent out something to my team last week, 172 reasons why you need a real estate agent. And it's funny because I had gotten it a couple months ago and I was like, man, that's a lot of reasons. I didn't think there was that many reasons, but as I'm reading through it, I'm like, yeah, man, that's right. We do this and this and this and this and this, 172 reasons on that sheet. And then we have another sheet, 56 types of turbulence that you can run into when you're buying or selling a home. And it's like, because we do this, Marcus, you and I sell real estate every day. Mike, you're doing mortgages every day. This is what we do, right? You forget sometimes about all the things that are involved in a real estate transaction. And there are a lot. And so as a buyer or a seller, make sure you're hiring one of the best in your market and they're going to take good care of you.
I compare it to like a track runner. Let's Usain Bolt. Let's talk about Bolt. Right?
Who's that?
Right?
Marathon guy?
Yeah. Marathon guy. That's right. That one. You're on the same page.
You got that right. No, that's it.
He trains for 4 years so he can run a 10-second race at the Olympics, right?
Actually, 9.58, but
9.58, right, in the Olympics. Okay, does he make it look easy when he's running the Olympics? When you see him, does he make it look easy?
Yeah.
Right. But does he? Is it only easy for him? Is it only easy for him during that race? Like, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that he works for 4 years, right? Yep. He works his tail off. He does all this back end stuff, right? So that he can basically showcase his skills for 10 seconds at the Olympics. And he makes it look easy. Why does he make it look easy? Why do the good ones make it look easy? Because they spend all this time over here, the off season, right? They spend all this off season training so that they can make their performance or their game time make it look easy. It's kind of what we do here. If you're a buyer and you go through a transaction with us and you get to the end and you're like, holy crap, that was easy. Like, that was easier than I expected. Yep. That's because we've done the 4 years worth of work over here so that when it's game time, we can make it look easy for you.
Absolutely.
Right? So, an experience is has a lot to do with that, and then just work ethic too. So,
love it.
Awesome show, guys. As our show comes to an end today, we want to thank you all for taking your time to tune in live and for your support of US Home Talk. As always, you can find today's show and all of our past shows on our website, ushometalk.com, or wherever you guys find your podcasts. This is Marcus Walgrave, Jason Walgrave, and Mike Overson. Have yourself a blessed week.